Hey there, good morning, good early afternoon, happy day. It is a beautiful day, and I am so happy to be able to take a moment to come to you and talk to you a little bit today. Um, Today, I am focusing on, I wanted to share a message that was put in my heart, and it's a message about being positive. I often receive inboxes and text messages and just email messages where people are commenting on how positive I always seem to appear. And they're actually right. I actually work really hard on being positive, even in the worst circumstances, because I honestly believe that the way you think influences the way you behave. So, the best way to make a difference in a habit or to change a habit is change the way you think, then you can change the way you behave. Now, that's not a unique concept. I actually learned about that through Carter G. Woodson, who wrote The Miseducation of the Negro back in, I think it was 1933. But that's a different topic. But you've got to change the way you think before you can change the way you behave. On the flip side, the way I think is going to impact the way I behave. So I am one who really digs in and really try to focus on being positive. And so I want to share with you some of the tips that I use for myself when stuff is just rough, when life is just rough and it just seems like it's never ending of bad news and bad situations and just bad feelings. And one of the things that I do is positive self-talk. I literally talk to myself, trying to pull out the positive things in my life. And sometimes that requires writing a list about what's horrible, what stink, what's crappy, and then next to it, all the things that are blessings to me, all of the things that are just wonderful to me. And then I look at the list, and even though sometimes it still looks as though the bad outweighs the good, that good does make me feel better, and that's what I talk about. And so the positive self-talk, the you looking at my strengths, focusing on those helps me to realize that I'm not so crappy after all. Another thing, another concept that I really embrace is called don't borrow worries. Let me say that again for you. Don't borrow worries. And what that happens is that when a situation is really crappy and stink, very often I find in myself and other people that I speak with, they will make it worse by adding more worries to it. So not only will they say, well, I don't have the money for my mortgage right now, and if I don't pay my mortgage this month, then next month, if I borrow the money from this one, I'm not going to be able to pay my light bill. I'm not going to be able to pay my car note. And so they're borrowing worries when the immediate problem right now, today, at this moment, is taking care of that mortgage. Now I understand you have to plan. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. I get that. But you don't have to borrow worries. Don't focus on the coulda, woulda, shoulda, but it never has and perhaps never will be. So I'm just like, at some point you have to begin to focus on the things that are happening now and not on the things that's going to make you feel worse. So I'm just not an advocate to borrow worries. I really, really try to focus on what I can control now, kind of like the serenity prayer, focusing on things you can change and accepting those you can't, but really focusing on that. And that kind of makes me feel better because it makes everything doesn't feel so overwhelming. Everything doesn't feel like I don't have a grip on it. Everything doesn't have to feel like, wow, life is just too tough for me and I can't do this. Because you have to know that sometimes you can put everything you have into something and it still doesn't work out. I mean, it's not like you've done stuff halfway and then you say, okay, that's why it didn't work out. Sometimes you put your heart, mind, body and soul, giving blood, sweat, and tears, and it still doesn't work out. But guess what? You still have to push through. You still have to trust God and believe. And you still have to understand what's for you is for you. See, failure isn't an option. At least for me, it's not. Because when I'm finished with one dream, I'm moving on to the next one. And when I say when I'm finished with one dream, whether that dream came true or whether I put everything I had into the dream and it didn't come true, I don't consider that failure. I consider this dream is done. Try time to move on to the next dream. I used an example of when I retired from being a school counselor. I took a real bad financial hit, but I knew I was done because I had done that my entire adult life, and I was finished with that dream. I was ready to move on to the next dream. And so even after that, working as a full-time college professor, this, that, the other, I was done with that dream and on to the next dream. And that's not to say I haven't taken a financial hit, with it, but my spirit and my soul and my mental and emotional well-being is just not for sale. There's just not enough money in the world, that you can pay for my happiness. Now, I wasn't stupid about it. I'm not just going to just walk out, and I still have bills to pay. Did have somewhat of a plan, but just know that failure is not an option. And know that sometimes your very best still may not be good enough for other people. But what you have to have in your mindset is that you are still enough. You are a child of God, so you are still enough. And you need to recognize that you're enough, God's enough, is because God has ordered your steps. That's the path you need to travel. God has ordered your steps, not man. So even though you might not be good enough for a person, you're still enough for God because God created you. You Because of this, I don't give up. I just don't. I may walk away, and just because you walk away doesn't mean you've given up. It just means you made a choice. And sometimes that choice may be a hard choice, but it's okay because as long as I know for me, as long as I feel like I'm traveling along the path that God created for me, I know that despite how many boulders are in my way, I'm going to figure out how to get over it or get around it because this is the path that was chosen just for me. And I don't always have the answers. Sometimes I'm praying to God to please, I'm praying for discernment because I want to understand. I want to understand why I put my heart, mind, body, and soul into something and it doesn't work out. It doesn't make sense to me because I say, well, God, why did you put this in my lap if it wasn't in your plan for me to feel successful with it? But then I have to trust the process. I have to remind myself to trust and believe. I have to really embrace the fact that the best is yet to come because all of this God created for me with my path. And I still have to have the faith, and I still have to have, the belief that it's going to be all right. See, sometimes it just takes us a bit longer to figure it out, or we get happy and ecstatic when things work out in our favor right away on our timeline. But I've just learned over the years and through experience that my timeline may not be God's timeline. So me moping and, getting in a depressive state because things aren't happening the way I want to happen when I want to happen, that's not helping. So that's one of the ways that I kind of strip myself from feeling negative. Do I have bad days and down days? Of course. That's natural. But for the most part, I try to maintain my integrity of positivity by just turning it over, by letting go and letting God. It's not always easy, but at the end of the day, I know that this is what has to be done in order for me to remain positive and get ready for the next day. I know I have to find that strength inside of me that may feel like it's just the size of that mustard seed, but I know that that mustard seed is what God planted in me to move the mountains before me. So knowing that gives me strength. Knowing that allows me to feel positive. Knowing that reminds me that I am worthy, reminds me that I am enough, that reminds me that tomorrow is just a day away, reminds me that the best is yet to come, reminds me that I'm already equipped and empowered to be all that I'm supposed to be because God created me and God orders my steps. So to wrap it all up, when people ask me, how is it that I'm so positive? It has a lot to do with my mindset. My mindset dictates that I don't have a choice but to be positive because God created me and He ordered my steps. And how can I question what he puts me through? How can I question the road that's laid out for me? How can I question the boulders in my way, the weeds I have to cut through? How can I question all of that? If I firmly believe in God is the creator of my life and his will is my way, then I go with the flow. I roll with the punches. I know that I'm already so much, but I also know I'm destined to be so much more. And it's in that spirit of positivity. It's me leaning on my triple shields of grace, faith, and mercy that allows me to be positive every day, to wake up grateful, thankful, and blessed. Some days it's easier than others, some days it's a struggle. But at the end of the day, that's my goal. At the end of the day, I know that I have to turn it over. So, for those of you who are feeling some kind of way because life sucks, you're not special because you've been through stuff in your life. We're all special. We've all been through stuff in our life. That's not what makes us special. What makes us special is that we are God's children and that we all have unique pathways and lifelines that he's created for us. So I'm not sure who this message is for today, but if it's for you, if it's been for you, let me know in your comments, inbox me, email me. This is what was on my heart today, why I took the time to go ahead and do this video to share with you, and I'm hoping it makes a difference in somebody's life. Um, I hope you guys have a wonderful, amazingly awesome day. I'm Dr. Adair, your #1 Amazon best-selling author of 12 books and 3 curricula, youth empowerment expert, motivational speaker. My link is in the bio or in, depending on which social media outlet you can find me. It's all there. So if this resonated with you, if this message was for you, then let me know. And I really, truly, truly hope that you guys were able to get something out of this message. Beautiful day. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy.